This is both 1 and 3 reported this tonight. This is the social media ban. And now that it's come into effect in Australia, One News showed it and basically was talking to a bunch of 16-year-olds who all went, no, I've still got access, as they were getting on TikTok, and nothing had changed for them. Had changed for others, though. We'll see what 3 has got to say about the social media ban. And it's very clear that New Zealand and the world, actually, because this is a world first, are watching what's going on this social media ban for under 16s.
Australia's world first ban on social media for under 16s kicked in today, a move the world is watching. All political parties here agree children need protection online, but can't agree on how to deliver it. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy has the story.
I'll send you a snap. Let's make a TikTok. I'll DM you on Insta.
Jeez, how unauthentic does that sound? That is really your nan trying to talk to the 16-year-olds about their culture, isn't it? I'll send you a snap.
David Seymour.
Things you now won't hear from under 16-year-olds in Australia with their ambitious experiment to boot young teens off social media.
For the good of Kirsty. For the good of Lucy and Anya.
Aussie teens are now banned from the list of YouTube.
I have to say, TV1 showed fucking Albanese talking about this. Oh, and we just really want to protect. He sounded like the most drunk uncle at a barbecue, brain dead, unrelatable person talking about social media, whether it's good or bad. Look, I've got teenagers, and I don't see this as necessarily a bad thing, but geez, check your audience. The wrong person to be talking to 16-year-olds about why this is good. Holy mackerel.
X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Reddit, Twitch, Threads and Kik.
From December 10, if you're under 16, you're no longer allowed to have a social media account.
Thanks, Uncle Ted. Would you like me to get you sherry now and then put your slippers by the rocking chair? Sheesh.
Companies could face fines of up to $50 million if they don't take the proper steps to stop under 16s on those platforms. The tech giants say they will comply, but call it arbitrary. The Australian government says it's aimed to protect teens from online abuse, harmful content and excessive screen time. The Prime Minister attempting some advice.
Above all, make the most of the school holidays coming up rather than spending it scrolling on your phone. Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that's been sitting there on your shelf for some time.
But the experiment...
Like, honestly, the face of the youth. Sorry, I know, and look, I'll say again, I don't necessarily think it's bad getting kids off phones, but drunk old uncle telling them about it, like, please, get the right person.
Or read that book that's been sitting there on your shelf for some time.
But the experimental law isn't foolproof.
I do know anecdotally that also they are migrating to other platforms that aren't as yet covered under the ban. I've heard of the platform Yope, which has sort of got similar facilities to Snapchat, and also that potentially some of the age verification software may not be working.
And when kids jump to these less regulated social media platforms, that's when they're shown more things, or they're more vulnerable to online bullying or predators.
Noah engages social media in so many positive, wholesome ways. The things that Noah's generation learns, we dreamed of. We were so limited to libraries and single pages of encyclopedia.
Here in New Zealand, there is cross-party support for better protecting children online, but not agreements on the best way to do that. The current government, though, is hinting the same thing as Australia could well be on the way here.
Oh, because that's her. That's her on her phone and her on the news. The same. That's both of them.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Look, isn't that clever? Oh my God, it's almost like technology. Wow.
Though is hinting the same thing as Australia could well be on the way here.
Highly supportive, and I'll be monitoring it very closely. As you know, I feel very personally invested in actually ensuring that we ultimately deliver our own ban ourselves here in New Zealand.
We are sort of
why are we feeling so personally invested? That's a strange thing, eh? I'm very personally heavily invested in what teenagers do on their phones.
His children are adults.
Yeah.
So they're not affected.
Maybe he's trying to get control over David Seymour, and that's why he's personally invested in it. Maybe, just saying, allegedly. That's a joke, and my tongue is in my cheek, in case any lawyers are watching.
Here in New Zealand.
We are sort of fast followers of other countries around the world, so we'll be watching what's happening in Australia very closely. We're working
Well,
with
actually, I've seen some commentary today that goes, New Zealand is one of the places that normally leads these sorts of social things, and we're not followers normally. So even that in and of itself is a little bit of a testament to this government and how they, like Craig always says, do you feel back on track yet? That they've not even back on track yet. So yeah, it's interesting that she would say that about being a keen follower, because that's not New Zealand's role normally. As little as we are, we often lead
around the world, so we'll be watching what's happening in Australia very closely. We're working with their officials, we're working with officials from the UK and other countries as well. Puts us in a really good spot.
We've got a drinking age, we've got a vaping age, we've got a driving age. Let's have a social media age where this empowers parents, because it also gives them the tools to be able to say, actually, it's not okay for you to be on social media.
The whole world's watching Australia because no one really knows what's going to happen, and there's good argument it could actually make things worse if it drives children into worse parts of the internet and stops them wanting to talk to their parents about it.
Experts here say we need to do something.
We need to see the kind of laws that are happening offline, happening online. There's currently no accountability for platforms.
In Australia, they're hoping this will be the start of the good life and bring an end to the angst felt by parents watching their kids live their lives online.
This is going to be, everything's going to be okay now, apparently, Chewy. This is the start of the revolution. Look, I'll say it again. I used to play this piece of video. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. It was about 10 years ago. So it was the millennials where the Gen Zs are now.
Yeah, I remember.
Talks about millennials in the workplace. And it talks about, it fires off the same synapses as things like cocaine and alcohol and, pornography does. So it's addictive, and we don't just throw open our liquor cabinet to our teenagers, and you're doing that with phones. So, look, I get it, and I absolutely think that the culture of what it is needs to change, but I don't know if just going no to teenagers is the way to do it anymore.
Teenagers, famously compliant to authority figures.
Rule followers, famous. So I don't know. It just
this reeks of other previous moral panics about video games or comic books throughout the generation. Every generation has had something that their parents' generation are freaking out about because they don't fucking understand it. Like, I am all for governments getting together and teaming up on the social media companies to police content that's on their platforms, to clamp down on misinformation and that sort of thing. But I think Pete in the comments said this runs smack dab into a clause in a Bill of Rights about the free exchange and sourcing of information. Like, it makes no sense. Like, the way that this is implemented, and I've seen somewhat of a version of this that the UK had in place when I was over there. I went in to log into Reddit, and it said that I had to verify my age. And here is your way to do it. Scan a copy of your passport. Do a facial scan. Provide your credit card details. Now, this was to an international company whose job it was to do that. Now, how is that information retained? I don't know. What is the protection that's put on that information? I don't know. Like, this seems sloppy, and especially when you look at Australia, by specifically naming social media platforms. They leave it open for everybody that is not named.
Yeah.
It's incredibly poorly put together. It's dubious whether it's effective. And I don't think it puts the social media platforms and companies themselves on enough of a hook to do a better job. Like, how many times have you seen something really egregious on, say, Facebook, and you hit that little report button, and 3 weeks to 4 months later, you find out that they've had a look at it and actually, no, it doesn't breach community standards. And I have had that from some of the most racist content that I have seen, the most violent content I have seen on that platform, doesn't breach community standards. I have never had a successful report on Facebook, ever. It's only when I've participated in something that is a mass pile-on, an organised pile-on on something to get it gone, that it ever works. So these social media companies don't care. The amount of misinformation, fake ads and scams that propagate on Facebook, seemingly without any sort of smackdown, like especially with the older people getting fucking scammed. You know, there's something needs to be done about social media. That's the core problem. And these companies are too big and too rich that they can actually get to the point where they just go, fuck off, government of small country, I don't care. You know, they're fiddling around the edges. They're not solving a problem.
Yeah. And look, like you just said, social media sites will pop up around the place if they're not already popping up, that then just get around that ban. Then all of a sudden, what do they say? Yope or something will be the biggest one in Australia. And then that'll get added to the list and they'll go to another one. And I'm not being defeatist. I do believe that restrictions and stuff can be in place. But equally, when she started to say things like, well, they had that one of the MPs, I guess, we have a national MP, we have a drinking age and we have a driving age. And guess what? Teenagers ignore most of those. Teenagers drink before they're 18. You know, like, so what do you say? We've got all these rules in place, and it's like, yeah, that they don't follow. So it's not the solution to go, we're just going to say no, and they're going to do it. But I also want to say that there are numerous cases, like seeing I am an incredibly old person. You know, when I was at school in 1947, you'd get bullied at school, right? And then sort of that didn't really change, maybe the odd phone call to home. And then when the internet came out, you sort of, you could be accessed at home through email and stuff. But back in those days, you know, there was a family computer in a community space. And now it's just gone up another level, up another level, up another level, up another level. And now this is where you get bullied. So the thing you have in your pocket that you're addicted to that you can't not look at, oh my God, the number of times I've said to my kids, we've been sitting and having a family meeting, and I've said, turn your phone over, and made them do that so they couldn't see the screen lighting up.
No, see, Pat, that's where you're wrong. The government should tell you. The government should tell them. We want a nanny state. Remember, National famously loves a nanny state, and it's never gone mad.
Yeah,
you know, this is the whole thing, that this is a parent's job. A parent's job is to protect their kids, right? The state's job is to protect us from overseas corporations.
Yeah. Well, then,
so why is the government cracking down on what kids do?
Well, I guess what they might say is that. So there's legislation in America, I don't know what it's called, but basically it's all over the world. It says that a platform is not responsible for the content that gets put on it. Change that. How much moderating do you think there'd be if Twitter was legally responsible for the words that were put on Twitter? The problem with some of the, like a radio station, for example, is legally responsible for views and opinions shared on that radio station. So here's one way around it. We've just got a solution. Say to these social media platforms, say to websites, say to whatever else there is, you are now responsible for the content on your site, even if it's put on by a different person. That would be a way to police this, because as soon as the libel, the racism, the human rights violations, the bullying, whatever, then you make them ultimately responsible for it. It makes me think of, I can't remember where it was. It might have been somewhere like Denmark. We were having a conversation several years ago about, the protection that cyclists should have when they're on the road. And I can't remember which country it is, but it's one of the Scandinavian ones, I think. They basically just say straight out, the bigger your vehicle is, the more responsibility we will point at you when it comes to an accident. So if a truck runs into a car, they hold more responsibility with the truck. If a car and a bike, if there's an accident between the car and the bike, they hold, I mean, obviously other than extreme circumstances, but they give more responsibility to the car. So what does that mean with cars and bikes? Cars are fucking careful around bikes, like really careful, because they know if something happens within their legal system, they can be made more responsible, more liable, because it's the bigger, more deadly vehicle. So cars get held more responsible than bikes when it comes to, so the cars are much more careful. Can we make the social medias more, the social medias, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Bebos, do they still do Bebo? Can we make them more responsible than the user? If you put all the responsibility on them, the bigger entity, then maybe they'd be fucking careful because they wouldn't want to, quote, hit a bike. Maybe.
Slight tangent, but the EU levelled a fine at Twitter the other day. And it was something around $102 million fine for not doing enough to police or stop blatant misinformation on their platform. And it made the world's richest man have a tantrum like no one has ever seen before, that literally had him calling for the dissolution of the entire EU.
I've seen some of the tweets going around about the EU in the last while. I didn't know that was the origin story.
Yeah,
that's really funny.
Yeah, that's why. So imagine that. You're the world's richest person, possibly the world's first trillionaire soon, and you're bitching about $102 million fine. That's like your average household getting like a $20 fine. So look, these social media oligarchs and that sort of thing have done irreparable damage. Like, for every good aspect, right? It has connected communities around the world. It's let very isolated people find their communities and find their people. It's had the free flow of information, free of the state and free of traditional media channels. All of those are good things. All of those have a darker side as well.
Yeah.
Like for every lonely gay or trans kid that finds out that he's not an alien from another planet and there are people like him, there are some very damaged people finding out that actually the Nazis did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of state-sponsored propaganda along with the free flow of information from alternative methods.
And probably when that gay or trans kid does find that community, he also being on that same social media then opens him or herself up to a billion times the abuse from that same social media that they found their community from.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the world becoming smaller and people finding out more about themselves and others, right? But at the moment, all of those high ideals of what social media could and should be is completely supplanted by some of the world's creepiest, richest people going, well, this is a hell of a way to make money. All of these people are my products. I'm going to sell their information. I'm going to advertise to them, and I'm not going to be particularly picky about the standards that I have on my platform, on my bulletin board to the world. I don't care if someone comes up and staples a Nazi rally sign to it. You know, these are things that the governments should be concerned about. 100%. I think pointing it at kids and going, you know, you should be effectively punished for this, because getting Mark Zuckerberg to stop radicalizing lonely, damaged people, old people, you know, creating pipelines of access for scammers to remove money from them, that sort of thing. That's all too hard. We don't know how to do it. But let's have a moral panic idea about 16-year-olds, and let's create a massive vector for you know, identity theft or all of those things as well. And I don't trust anyone in the government to actually look at this with some nuance. It is going to be killing a fly with a sledgehammer, the most clumsy way possible, just like the Americans have.
It also just makes me think, as you're speaking of that, what's his name? Tristan Harris. Tristan Harris is a computer scientist who coined the phrase, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Yeah.
100%. What you're doing. And also,
Facebook makes a lot of sense if you keep that in mind.
Yeah. Just in case people were wondering, this is the clip I was talking about. The guy's name is Simon Sinek. As you can see, it's 9 years old. I watched this clip maybe 10 times with my teenagers from about 8 minutes in. He talks about what social media, the impact of social media on the brain. It's really, really worth a watch. We're not going to play it because I think we have played it once before and it got us, I had to remove it from YouTube because we're breaking copyright. But Simon Sinek on millennials in the workplace, obviously 10 years ago. Really worth a watch with your young people who are on social media.